So today I fucked up, and I want to talk about it a little bit and think about it, frankly, because fucking up is complicated, more so than you might imagine, at least for me. So the situation was, my son's been exposed to COVID a couple times over the last week or so. So I thought, like, hey, it's been a couple days. He seems to be okay, but it probably makes sense for me to do a COVID test. He hates tests. He hates COVID tests. He hates blood tests. He hates any tests. So as soon as I said it, he kind of freaked out and was like, I don't want to do it. He didn't want the swab up his nose, kind of that whole thing. Long story short, I knew we had to do it. I had the test all ready to give him, and he was freaking out, losing his mind. My response to that, which was obviously the wrong one, was to freak out and lose my mind and get angry and frustrated because it had to happen and he wasn't listening, and I was worried that as we took time arguing about it, the test was getting like contaminated and ruined. There was other things I had to do, right? It's in the morning before school. I had to get ready. I had to get him ready. There's, a bunch of stuff going on. And that whole kind of flooding, overwhelming sensation kicked in, and I lost my shit. Obviously, I didn't do anything bad or hurt him in any way, but I just got super angry. I was yelling. I was cursing. He then got obviously more scared, more upset, and everything just got worse. Maybe the worst part of it, though, is as I was doing it, it was genuine and it was off to the races, but there was a part of me that was like, this isn't the way to handle it. But the emotions, the feelings were so strong, the frustration, the concern about things that now I look at and say, like, hey, we had plenty of time. Even if that COVID test got contaminated, not that big of a deal. Like, all the things I was worried about in the moment that felt like this is so real. It's totally justified that I'm this angry. He's being ridiculous. I see now that they're not, and I kind of knew then that they weren't. And I knew, maybe most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but as importantly as anything, I just knew it wasn't logical. It didn't make any sense. Like, the math didn't check out in any way that was the right way to handle it. So on all accounts, it was the wrong way, but it felt so right. Now, when it was kind of over and we settled, and even before that, I caught myself and I kind of brought myself back, and we had a conversation after, and I apologized, and I explained how, like, hey, I expect you to be able to control your emotions. I expect you to be able to understand that even though you don't want to do a COVID test, you have to, and losing your mind isn't the way to handle it. So I need to hold myself to the same standard. It's not okay that I lost my mind. I'm the adult. If I expect you to do it, I should certainly be able to do it. And nothing about how I just handled that was okay. We talked about how he felt and, all that stuff, because I wanted him to understand that it wasn't okay, and that, I wanted to try and console him a little bit too, frankly. He bounced back pretty quick, but I still thought that was important. So I kind of went through that process. Now, the reason I say it's so complicated is there's an idea of, and I felt this, I experienced this, like, as it was over and I was thinking about it and I had had the conversation with him, there was a part of me that said, okay, this is one of those times where you give yourself grace. This is one of those times where you say, hey, I can't go back and change the past. I already fucked up. I already did it. All I can do now is move forward, kind of learn from it. And there's deep truth in that, and that's kind of what I tried to apply to it. Let me salvage as much as I can out of this situation now, show that it was a learning opportunity for me, show that I'm not perfect, show some remorse, have the conversation with him. All good stuff. But on a very mathematical level, I don't want to do that again. I want to be better. I want to handle that better. So the way I view the world and how our minds work mathematically, I need to give myself a cost that says that never makes sense for you to do that, right? I need to hold myself accountable. Because if I give myself too much grace, if I forgive myself and say, okay, can't change the past, I handled it now, I did the best I could going forward, I had the conversation with him, I apologized, and I alleviate it too much, then when that situation arises again, the cost side of the equation isn't that high. There's not that much pain, discomfort, accountability on that side to say, hey, you better be better this time, because remember how bad it was last time for you? Because then it's not that bad, right? I gave myself the grace, I moved on, lesson learned, can't change it, we're good. And again, while all those words and those concepts make sense on some level, the complication is there has to be another aspect of where I do, for lack of a better word, but I mean it, punish myself. Because I need to understand the consequence that that's not okay to do that. And that's the challenge, I think. That's something that I talk to a lot of people about, and I try and understand how other people approach that, because it is such a delicate balance to strike of genuinely holding yourself accountable so that you do aspire and are motivated to be better, while at the same time not just harping on the past and things that you can't control and trying to move forward and learn and give yourself some of that grace, because grace is important. Not being too hard on yourself is important, but being hard on yourself sometimes is important. The last thing I would ever want, and I've done this in my life for many years prior to this, where I gave myself too much of an out. I excused it. I feel like I made my amends and it's all good, and then I don't learn from it. I don't actually get better. So, on the one hand, we all fuck up. I get that, and today was one of those days for me where, like, that was a fuck up. That was something I wish I handled better. And we have to accept that happens. But at the same time, we have to aspire to not let it happen again. In a weird way, we have to accept the fact that perfection is never going to happen, but we need to aspire towards it. We need to expect ourselves to always be the best versions of ourselves and hold ourselves accountable when we're not. And that's a really, really, even as I say it, that's a tricky concept to actually execute and live out. And it's something that I'm still trying to figure out.